Okay, adorned with some punk rock stickers, because I guess stickers are punk rock, right? I think there's a Misfits one on the side here, right? Okay, cool. So this is a Fender FM212R, two 12-inch speakers, which are not original. It has been changed out for, check that out, PV Scorpions! Those are the speakers, you either love them or you hate them. I've found a couple of amps that I really like them in, and they were actually PV amps, but definitely have the potential to be loud and clear. They have their own frequency response curve that either is your thing or it's not. The reverb tank is unplugged. There is a short spring reverb tank in it, and it's here because the owner put too much signal through it. Put a really strong drive pedal and drove a lot of signal into it and made a fizzy noise and then quit working. So sometimes tube amps handle that a little better than solid state amps, but this is the newer variant. I think the last solid state Fender we worked on was a Japanese variant. This is a Chinese variant. So let's verify the functionality claim. I'll plug the reverb tank back in. We'll verify the functionality problem and then check it out. Okay, so I'm not even going to go very far with diagnosis. I don't think I have to. There's supposed to be little lights here for like the channel select stuff, and none of that is on. It doesn't make a sound. Even if I turn it up a lot. So if I had to guess, this might be similar to what we saw in the Stage Lead 2, where the preamp section is not getting power. There may be a fusing resistor or a fuse or something related to that. So we'll pull the chassis out and take a look for that. Okay, so I started off with some preliminary voltage measurements, and we're looking at this through a magnifying glass because this camera can't focus worth a hoot when you try to get close to something. So we got our power transformer. I checked our DC at our diodes, which this is weird trying to point underneath the magnifying glass, but around these diodes I got 42 volts DC. I come to this resistor, I've got like 41 on one side and almost nothing on the other side. So that says to me this resistor might be open. When I try to check it, it's acting like it has a resistance, but it's probably from these capacitors, so I'm going to have to lift it. And when I started to roll that resistor out of the way, I don't know if you can see on the far side here, on this one side, it looks crusty. It looks like it's been overheated and smoked. And these sand type resistors do have a habit of opening because they're supposed to protect the circuit. They're kind of a fusing resistor, but the print and stuff is kind of missing off the one side. So we're going to have to pull this stupid board and then we're going to check, but I have a feeling one of these resistors might be open, and if that's the case, then we've solved why there's no power. We just have to hope there's no more damage down the line. Okay kids, welcome to an episode of Classic Annoying Fender Problems. I decided, since I wasn't seeing voltage down here, to just start tracing the voltage. So I got the schematic. This is really tiny. It's hard to read on paper. I was reading it on the computer. But essentially what we start at is our power comes in over here, goes through those big diodes, and goes through the filter caps, and eventually basically a bunch of it comes over here to these two resistors. And I was checking to see if I had voltage at these resistors, and watch this. Okay, so you don't even need to see my meter. I'm going to come over here and poke, and I'll just tell you I have minus 17 volts, which I'm expecting about 16. And then this one I'm looking for about 16 volts, and look at that. See that light on the front of the thing? That light kicked on, right? It's a bad solder joint. This got too hot, melted the solder, and miffed that up underneath. So we're going to fix that, and then we're going to see if the amp's going to work. Okay, so through the magnifying glass, here is that solder joint. I don't know if you can see on the this one right here. This is a wiggly thing right here. I don't know if that pad's messed up. I'm not even going to chance it, but it connects to this, so I'm just going to lay a little bit of a trimmed lead there, and we're going to retouch the solder on those, and then we'll see how we're behaving. Okay, with the amp in the normal channel, the light's not on, but it is amplifying. So, yay, it amplifies. So that may probably very well was all that was wrong with it. I don't want to leave it without the heatsink bolted on the transistors for very long. The resistor over here that I was concerned about being a little bit crusty, that is the voltage dropping resistor for the LED. So as long as it's not open, it's fine, and even if it went open, the amp would still work, so I'm going to ignore that. So it looks like our problem solely went to the solder joints on those 5-watt resistors back there. Boy, that was tough troubleshooting. So I suppose I will clean the pots and put it back together. Now, I've had people ask me how to clean pots, or they were upset that I didn't explain how to clean pots. So I will do one of them on camera this time, because apparently I have been skipping it, or I haven't been skipping it, I have been skipping filming it, so I will film that. There's really no good way to film this with this board because I'm going to be working upside down and backwards. But everybody's probably mounted to a board like that, you know, out like here. On every one of these potentiometers where the leads go in, most of them have a little slot or a groove that you can get air in there. Take your cleaner, in this case Max Pro electrical lubricant, put just a little puff in there, and then you just turn it back and forth a lot of times, and you'll actually feel it gets looser and easier to turn. This particular pot came out of my bin of stuff, and it was really not very used, but still now it is easier to turn, and that will stop your potentiometers from making crackling noises when you turn them. So I'm going to do that to all 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 pots on here, and then put the amp back together. See you in a few minutes. Okay, kind of like the stage lead 2, there's tons of volume in the clean channel. Like 1 is technically off and 2 is loud, so we'll try it at like 1.5. And the reverb does work. I turned the reverb up. It's not as much of a reverb as I would expect out of a Fender amp, but I checked it and that's, you know, it's fine, it works. Just not as grand as I would have expected. Let's try the treble knob. Max, minimum. Oh, that's a very dynamic treble knob. Mid knob, 0. Yep, that's fine. Bass. That works fine. Let's try the loud channel. Got an orange light now. Let's turn the volume at like 1/2 and bring our gain up a little bit. Everything on the amp works. Yay. Let's try more drive. Yeah, that definitely works. So that's fine. So let's just try it here on the drive channel. We'll give it a little bit more crunch. That's not very loud, but it's got a lot of sustain. That's not bad. I think these speakers are an improvement over what would be in this in stock. So yeah, it's working fine. The reverb works. Everything works. So hooray. Let's go back to the clean channel, I guess. And I know some people don't like to fix these, you know, budget solid state amps or whatever, but I think everybody needs their amps fixed when they need their amps fixed, and It was funny, I had one guy on Reverb comment, and as you know, our shop here is Mr. V Amps. He referred to me as Dr. V, and I'm like, well, I'm not a doctor. Definitely not a doctor, and I don't have a phony degree in amplificatorology or something that I made up myself. And there are many people, I can think of one guy who could have gone by the title of Doctor or Reverend, but he just chose Mr. and he chose to help people. So I'm going to go with that, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, you'll figure it out in a minute. Yeah, there we go. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? Because I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in the neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Would you be my neighbor? Yeah, that's the last thing you'd expect some idiot to play on a rock and roll amp, right? But hey, there you go. Easy fix. I've seen that same resistor desoldering itself from the PC board in like Fender hot rods, and it's like a Hot Rod Deluxe, Hot Rod DeVille, those kind of things. Those 5-watt resistors, they pull a lot of power and they get toasty. So if they're not lifted up off the board, or if you just drive your amp till it hurts, that kind of stuff can happen. And that's why we're sort of trained as solder monkeys to make mechanical connections when we solder, so that way if the solder does get hot because of a component, hopefully that component doesn't let go in the middle of a show and disappoint our user. Because let's say they, you know, play one searing guitar solo at crazy volume, and then they turn the amp back down. You know, that joint's got to survive 3 or 4 minutes before it's going to have a chance to cool down. So did it break in that time or did it not? But, you know, try to be respectful of your equipment. Like I say, I think Buddy just tried to put way more signal through this than it was ready to give. But I find that it's got plenty to give. This thing is loud enough. So let's give it some reverb. There we go. Well, the clean channel's awful purty, and it's probably too loud for this little camera. Anyway, that's enough wasting time. Thanks for watching. Fender FM212R, all fixed. Easy enough. Have a great day.